Iran and Israel, two nations once allies in ancient times, are now locked in intense rivalry. With Iran's nuclear ambitions and support for groups like Hezbollah, Israel sees a growing threat. This isn't just a clash of ideologies. It's a shadow war of cyber attacks, proxy battles, and covert missions, a conflict with roots deep in history but consequences today. But have you ever wondered how Iran, once a biblical ally to the Israelites, became one of Israel's biggest rivals today? The story behind it is ancient, biblical, and filled with twists. Today, we'll look into the fascinating lineage of the Iranian people, the rise of mighty Persia, its complex relationship with Israel, and how they transformed into an Islamic nation, finally becoming the fierce rivals we see in modern times. Stick around, you won't want to miss this. Who are the Iranians? Our story begins with Noah's descendants. According to the Bible, the Iranians trace their ancestry back to Elam, one of the sons of Shem, Noah's son. Genesis 10:22 names Elam as part of the Table of Nations, connecting his lineage to one of the earliest known civilizations in what we now call Iran. Some traditions and historical accounts suggest a link between the Persians and Japheth, one of Noah's sons. Biblical genealogy identifies the Elamites, early settlers of the Iranian region, as descendants of Shem. The Elamites established the Elamite civilization, one of the earliest known cultures in what is now southwestern Iran, with its capital in Susa or Shushan. This civilization played a significant role in the early development of the region. Around 1000 BCE, the Indo-Iranian branch, encompassing groups like the Medes and Persians, migrated into the Iranian plateau from the northwest as part of a larger wave of Indo-European migrations into the Middle East. In this migration context, Madai, identified in Genesis as a son of Japheth, is traditionally recognized as the ancestor of the Medes. This lineage places the Medes and later the Persians, through their connection with the Medes, within the genealogical line of Japheth. Descendants of Japheth are often associated with peoples who settled in regions to the north and west, including parts of Europe and Central Asia. This movement contributed to the cultural and historical tapestry that shaped the Iranian plateau. But how did Elam and Madai turn into Persia, the mighty empire? Enter Cyrus the Great. In the 6th century BCE, Cyrus united the Medes and Elam, conquering vast territories and establishing the Achaemenid Empire known as Persia. From the Mediterranean to the Indus Valley, Persia became a true superpower, and its influence was unstoppable. On Isaiah 45:14 describes how God would empower Cyrus to conquer nations and ultimately allow the Israelites to return to their land after the Babylonian exile. This is what the Lord says to his anointed, to Cyrus, "I will go before you and level the mountains." Isaiah 45:1-2. The Israelites were held captive in Babylon for approximately 70 years, a period commonly referred to as the Babylonian exile. This exile, which began around 586 before the birth of Christ and ended in 539 with the Persian conquest of Babylon, had profound religious and cultural significance in the biblical narrative. Persia wasn't just powerful, it was profoundly influential. Cyrus the Great wasn't merely a conqueror, he was a liberator. When the Babylonians took the Israelites captive, it was Cyrus, a Persian king, who allowed them to return to Jerusalem. The Bible even refers to Cyrus as an anointed one, a term usually reserved for Israelite kings, highlighting God's unique favor and purpose for him. In 539 BCE, after Cyrus conquered Babylon, he issued a historic decree permitting the Jews to return to Jerusalem and rebuild the temple, Ezra 1:1-4. This act fulfilled prophecies by Isaiah and Jeremiah, portraying Cyrus as a ruler from outside Israel, yet specifically chosen by God to carry out his promises. The book of Daniel also references Persia in its prophetic visions. depicting it as a beast in the succession of world empires, Daniel 7-8. Represented by the ram in Daniel's visions, Persia symbolizes a formidable, protective force, yet one that is eventually overcome by Greece under Alexander the Great. Daniel's favorable position under Persian rulers like Darius and Cyrus underscores the unique relationship between Persia and Israel, showing Persia as a protector of Israel during a vulnerable period. This prophecy stands out in its respect for Cyrus and Persia, attributing them a role in God's divine plans rather than casting them as cursed. The books of Ezra and Nehemiah further illustrate the support Persian kings, including Cyrus, Darius, and Artaxerxes, provided for the Jewish people. These kings not only permitted but actively funded the rebuilding of the Jewish temple and the walls of Jerusalem. Unlike other foreign powers that oppressed Israel, the Persian Empire emerged as a supportive ally in a pivotal era. This unique relationship between Persia and Israel stands out as one of the few times in history where a foreign empire played such a direct and supportive role in preserving Israelite life and worship. Later, during the reign of King Ahasuerus, likely Xerxes I, the Book of Esther recounts a plot by Haman, the king's advisor, to exterminate the Jewish people throughout the Persian Empire. Esther, a Jewish woman who became queen, along with her cousin Mordecai, successfully thwarted Haman's plan. This story highlights God's protective hand over Israel even in exile, and celebrates Persian royalty's openness to the Jewish presence, albeit amidst complex power struggles. This deliverance, commemorated annually as the Feast of Purim, is a powerful testament to Jewish resilience and divine provision even under foreign rule. Persia's portrayal in these narratives reveals a realm that, while sometimes adversarial, was largely open to influence and offered protection, underscoring a remarkable historical partnership with Israel that remains a testament to God's providential work through unlikely allies. The Persian Empire, particularly under Zoroastrian influence, shared certain monotheistic ideals that resonated with Judaism. Concepts of cosmic dualism, messianism, and eschatology were themes within Persian religious thought that may have interacted with Jewish theological development during and after the exile. Persia, the mighty empire that spanned 3 continents, the land of legendary kings like Cyrus and Darius, and the force that even the Bible recognizes as anointed by God himself. But what if I told you that the Bible also predicted its downfall to a young, ambitious king from Greece? Over 200 years before Persia would fall, Daniel, a Jewish exile living under Persian rule, recorded a fascinating vision. In the book of Daniel, chapter 8, he describes seeing a ram with 2 horns standing by a river. But this wasn't just any ram. One horn was longer than the other, symbolizing the combined powers of Media and Persia, with Persia eventually rising to greater prominence. The ram charged in all directions, symbolizing Persia's power to conquer and dominate across the Middle East. Then suddenly from the west enters a new contender. A goat, moving so swiftly it barely touched the ground, charges from the west. The Bible tells us that this goat represents Greece, with the prominent horn symbolizing its first and most powerful king, Alexander the Great. This powerful goat, representing Alexander, is described as attacking the ram furiously, breaking its horns and trampling it. The great Persian Empire, which once helped Daniel's people return to their homeland, was prophesied to fall. In 331 BCE, Alexander led his army in a decisive battle against Persia at Gaugamela. Although vastly outnumbered, his strategy, speed, and sheer determination led to a stunning victory. The once unbreakable Persian Empire was crushed, and Alexander claimed his place as the ruler of the known world. The fall of Persia was not only a pivotal moment in history, it was also a fulfillment of Daniel's prophecy, a tale of empires rising and falling according to divine destiny. Alexander's conquest of Persia marked the dawn of a new era, the spread of Greek culture and influence across the Middle East. However, as powerful as Alexander was, his own empire would soon divide and fade, just as Daniel had also foretold. But that's a story for another time. If you want us to dive into that story, let us know in the comments below. Through the Persian rule, the Israelites rebuilt their homeland and strengthened their religious identity, all thanks to Persia's support. But how did this allyship turn into enmity? Fast forward a few centuries. In 651 CE, Persia, which had thrived as an empire with its own unique Zoroastrian beliefs, was conquered by the growing Islamic Caliphate. This was a major turning point as Islam gradually became the dominant faith in Persia. Over time, Islam deeply shaped Persian society. By the 16th century, under the Safavid dynasty, Persia officially adopted Shia Islam, distinguishing itself from most of the Sunni Muslim world. While the shared Abrahamic traditions still linked Persia and Israel spiritually, a new era of religious difference and political rivalry was beginning to take root. But the real split came in 1979 with the Islamic Revolution. The Shah of Iran, who had maintained a friendly relationship with Israel, was overthrown by religious leaders led by Ayatollah Khomeini. With this new leadership, Iran cut off ties with Israel and took a stark anti-Israel stance, openly calling for Israel's elimination. "The Zionist regime is a usurper and should be eliminated," said Ayatollah Khomeini. Khomeini's government shifted Iran's foreign policy sharply, positioning itself as a champion of the Palestinian cause and viewing Israel as a Western influence in the Middle East. Anti-Israel sentiment became a defining part of the Iranian regime's ideology, a stance that persists to this day. In recent years, tensions between Iran and Israel have intensified. Iran's pursuit of nuclear technology has been a major flashpoint, with Israel viewing a nuclear-capable Iran as a direct threat. Meanwhile, Iran funds and supports groups like Hezbollah in Lebanon and Hamas in Gaza, organizations that are firmly anti-Israel. Today, the rivalry is no longer just about ideology. It's a shadow war involving proxy conflicts, cyber warfare, and covert operations. Israel and Iran are locked in a high-stakes geopolitical struggle that has deep historical roots but very modern consequences. So there you have it, ever-wonder viewers. From ancient alliances and biblical prophecy to modern enmity, Iran and Israel's relationship is one of history's most dramatic shifts. It's a story of cultural pride, political power, and deep-seated beliefs. Let us know in the comments if this video changed the way you view this relationship. And what would you like to learn about next? Make sure to subscribe, hit that bell, and stay curious.